Good afternoon and welcome to No More Peace Soup. I'm going to go live again. I think we are live. It was telling me that it wasn't going live on one of the platforms. So welcome to No More Peace Soup, the show about that moment in life when you realise you're done with playing small and it's time to live into your giant self. And today I am in conversation talking all things transformation with David Alison. So welcome to the show, David.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. You are a fascinating man to talk to, and I've had the pleasure of talking to you on many occasions. And I think the reason I asked you to come on the show was because you made quite a massive transformation. And actually, I think you've made several massive transformations. But you started, I was looking at your LinkedIn this morning, and you started in a very corporate kind of world. And then something happened around 2017, I think it looks like, where you shifted your being into being something quite different. And so would you like to tell us a little bit about that and introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon from Scotland. I am 60 years old. So if I take everybody way back to 1977, I was 16 years old. There was lots of unemployment in Scotland, and I had just finished a year at further education college, which I spent most of it in a snooker hall. And I got my first job. I worked in a supermarket, a big supermarket. It was the biggest in Scotland at the time. And I was a trainee manager. And so I thought, first job, trainee manager. That lasted 3 days. And the manager of the store, and there's a long story behind that, but the manager of the store basically told me I'd never make anything of my life. I'd never be a manager. So tomorrow I was to report to the checkout supervisor, and I would be one of the boys who pulled the trolleys down from the car park. That was my first real job. I then spent well into my 50s proving him wrong. Because I remember going home the day it happened, I was distraught. I went home. I was a big, brave boy in the office, but I went home, cried my eyes out to my father. My father said, "We'll just have to prove him wrong, son." So I spent nearly 40 years proving him wrong. And
very successfully so.
Yeah, and I got my first manager's job by the time I was 19. Funnily enough, in the same store that he was still the manager of. And I then managed some supermarkets. I was quite young. And then I switched into back office stuff like warehousing and logistics. And I stayed in that industry pretty much my whole corporate career. I was a supply chain guy. But I'd left school, I had basic qualifications. And I got to a point in my career in my mid-30s, and I couldn't get any further. I was earning reasonable money. But this would be mid-80s, mid to late 80s, into the 90s. And for that period of about 10 or 15 years in the UK, you couldn't get anywhere in management unless you had a university degree.
Right.
And my boss, I remember one of my jobs, I worked for a wholesale cash and carry company. My boss had a degree in geology, which made him qualified to be my boss. He knew nothing. I mean, he didn't say he didn't know nothing, but and in the end, so I was a bit frustrated. I couldn't earn any more money. Nobody would give me I had 20 years management experience by this point, but nobody would give me a senior job because I didn't have a degree. And then I joined ICI, which was a huge company in the UK at the time. And as part of the 2-day interview process, they said, "Would you be interested in doing a master's degree?" And I thought, master's degree? I've only got 2 O-levels. Yeah. But then something clicked in my head, and it was one of those moments, and I had quite a few of these in my life. It was like, this is your moment, grab it.
Yes.
I just said, yeah, of course. Of course I'd be interested. I then was driving home, and I thought, how the hell am I going to do a master's degree with 2 O-levels? because I had this belief in my head. So anyway, long story short, I joined the company. We then got bought over. My role changed, and I got into European operations. So we postponed my master's degree for a year, but then I did the master's degree. I was in the top third of the class, and I remember the day I graduated. My mother was there. My father had passed. He never got to see me do any of what I've done now. I still feel him around in spirit. But my mother was there, my then girlfriend and my two daughters. And I remember saying to myself that day, one day I'm going to have that big corporate job. I'm going to be a director in a big corporate one day. And then I just got on with life. And then...
So I'm hearing that you'd kind of dipped in and out of your intuition all the way through this. There were these moments of like, this is your chance, take the chance. Then kind of got sucked back into, oh, well, I'm just going to keep going on the road to...
Huge moments of synchronicity all the way through. It's like, things happened, and you can read more about it in this book that I've just been a co-author in, The Sacred Dance.
Show us, put it right up in front of you so everyone can see. You have to go that way. Yeah, The Sacred Dance. Fantastic. We can chat about that.
So we can talk about that a little bit later. So there's so many times in my life, things happened, and I just went, okay, this is the right thing to do.
So you really listened to that.
Yeah, it's just like something inside is like, go do this.
Yeah.
And I still do that now. I quite active, and I act quite impulsively, and just go. Something feels right, I just go and do it. So yeah, there was a whole load of events that happened, a whole load of life that happened in the middle, and then I ended up in 2015 in that dream job, which turned out to be in Belgium. I'd just been living 4 years in Amsterdam. I got a freelance contract in 2011 after my second divorce, and thought, yeah, go to Amsterdam. And I had that turned into a job, and then the job finished. I did some freelancing. I had a great time in Amsterdam, and again, you can read all about it there. It's not for here. It's like, so what took me? I got my dream job. It was like amazing.
Yeah,
I got this job for an American Fortune 500 company based in Antwerp, in Belgium. I had Europe, Middle East, and Africa responsibility for 5 departments. And
so you were living the dream.
Yeah, it was like the dream. It's like I had this beautiful corner glass office, I had a big BMW, and I kept to travel. I was in South Africa, Russia. I had 50 people work for me in Romania. And then there was people in all the mainland European countries. And I thought I'd made it.
Yeah.
So, and it was kind of funny how it's like, and I've seen throughout my whole experience is like, just when you think things are good, something will come and they'll knock the train off the rails.
Right.
Or you can use whatever metaphor you like. Something will come along and give you a little nudge just to test you. And what I realized is like, you never get in life what you can't cope with. So whatever you believe in, your God, creator, universe, it's like you never get more in life with what you can't deal with.
Yeah.
And so I had just been, I was in the role about 3 weeks. I said to my boss, the CEO, I want to go and meet all my teams. He went, yeah, sure. So I went on this 3-week tour of all. So I was in South Africa, Russia, whatever. And I came back to this letter on my desk from the local authority in Antwerp to say that my warehouse wasn't safe. They'd done an inspection and it was dangerous, and I had to take immediate action or we would be fined or whatever. So long story short, after discussion with the other legal directors, we closed part of the warehouse down to make it safe. And then everything started to fall apart because all the processes and everything that I assumed would be in place because this was a big company weren't. And then I realized that some people were in the role were out of their depth, not because they were bad at what they were doing, but this is a company. Somebody would like to know about the inspiration about, we'll come back to my.
We'll come back to that.
So anyway, it ended up being a bit of a melting pot. I went through 3 bosses in 18 months. Eventually, our American parents got fed up because we weren't turning things around quick enough. And it was a big lesson in how not to run a supply chain. And I was a master's in supply chain. So everything I'd learned and taken over 30 years, it's like every time we pick something up, is like 100 other things would come out and cause more problems. And then you would go to fight that fire. And in the end, I thought, and this came to my no more pea soup moment, I thought, there's got to be more to life than this. This is, I've worked my whole life, gone through multiple redundancies, divorces, I've gone out, got my dream job, my dream salary, my beautiful woman in my life, and I thought that was it. And then the turning point happened when I watched this Netflix movie called I'm Not Your Guru one Friday night with a big glass of wine. I hadn't even started it and I was in tears. It was I just watched somebody who was the biggest name in self-development, Tony Robbins. And I just watched him create what I thought was magic with somebody who was a suicide person. And all he did was put his hand on his chest and he said, what just happened there? And the floodgates just opened for me. And I thought, wow.
Yeah.
I watched it 5 times over the next week. And every time it had the same effect. It doesn't quite have the same effect now. But
everything comes at the right moment, right? And that if we look at the book, The Giants and the Smalls, where this no more pea soup idea comes from, it's that moment when you see what's possible. There's, you look at the giant gives you that viewpoint of, and if you stand on my shoulder and you look, all of that's available to you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get put back on the ground and you go back to your life, but something's different now, something's changed, something isn't the same anymore. And that for me is that no more pea soup moment where it's like, I can't go back. How do I do that now? I know this.
Yeah, and for me, it was like, I remember after the 3rd or the 4th time I was sitting meditating, and I hadn't really been doing that much meditation by then, but I thought, okay, I'm going to start doing this properly. And I've meditated every day since the 1st of November 2015 now. Wow. It's coming up for nearly 2,000 consecutive days. But I remember sitting there going, okay, so what's this all about? What do I need to know? And I saw this. I thought, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to be a speaker. I'm going to do something healing. And it's like, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm still this corporate executive. And I remember going to my first big personal development event in New Jersey in America, see Tony Robbins. I took my girlfriend and another friend. And I came back full pumped up, excited to, all right, I'm not going to tackle this. I'm going to look at things in a different way. 20 minutes later, I was marched out of the building. I was fired. And I sat there that night. Well, I actually came home. They wanted to take my car off me. And I said, no. I said, you can get it back next Monday. So immediately I packed a bag, jumped in the car and drove from Antwerp into the Highlands of Scotland. And then I sat there going, okay, what am I going to do now? Oh, I'm just going to be... And by this point, I'd already got my own coach and I'd started at coach school and I was sailing through coach school. It was like, and the funny thing was like my whole corporate career, I was never the guy to be the first. I never wanted to be the center of attention. I was always the person who stood at, if I went to a networking event and I went to lots of corporate stuff and I would never I would be standing sussing out the room to make sure, okay, I'm going to pick up on people's energy. I'll go and talk to them. They look like it'd be safe to talk to these people.
And
I
it's
want to
interesting
my
as
death
well.
to talk to these people.
What
And
I'm
then I'm
hearing is that you
emotional.
were always in the wrong.
Yeah.
You never really were meant to be doing that, and these little
Probably
points in
not,
your life
no.
where the real you kept on popping up and going, oh, me, hello,
But
David.
it's interesting, Fiona, you can say that, but it's like, and I just give this question to everybody watching. It's like, you're here, you're alive today, you're watching this this broadcast. Everything you've been through in life has brought you to this moment. So
Absolutely.
all that experience that I've been through in my life, the marriage, the divorces, or the redundancy, the highs, the lows, it's helped to make me the coach I am.
Yeah.
Helped me get the people skills that I've got that can help anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, was that what I was meant to be doing? Yes, I was meant to be doing that at the time because it was part of my journey. What I'm doing now is my purpose. It's why
Right.
God, my creator, whoever it is, put me here on earth to do.
So tell us what you do now.
What do I do now?
You're a coach and a speaker and a now author.
Yeah, I just been a co-author in my first book, which is something I thought I would never do. And all that is the story of how I like what my background, how I grew up, and what I went through to. And I was my whole life, and I said earlier, my first boss told me I would be nobody. I believed him.
Yeah.
And we all have these beliefs as humans that either give us strength and encouragement or they put us in a situation. Sometimes it suppresses. So I spent most of my adult life push to prove that I was good enough to be a manager, even though I was a manager at 19. Even when I got my master's degree at 40, I was still pushing. Even when I got my board director's position, even when I became a coach for Tony Robbins, I was still pushing to prove myself.
Right.
Now I don't do that.
Don't push.
Now I've got nothing to prove.
What have you replaced your pushing with?
Interesting. Sometimes I still push. But what I do every day is I don't push. And this is going to sound this like every day I just be. I am David. Some days David is very productive. Some days David is lazy. Some days when I'm working with clients, I created this me, which is focused, grounded, centered. When I work with somebody, I just put my hands up and I go, give me whatever I need, give me strength, wisdom, knowledge, guidance, insight, whatever I need to serve this person. And I put my hands up, and sometimes energy tingles through my whole body. Sometimes nothing happens. But whatever happens with my clients is what's meant to happen that day. And I don't sit there thinking, what am I going to ask them next? Because it's like, this as a coach, you never know what's going to come out of your client's mouth. You never know what emotional state they're going to be in when they jump on the video screen or the telephone.
Yeah.
So, and what I've done, I've done thousands of sessions now, over 4,000, and in the last probably 2,000, and then my intuition just takes over. It's an intuitive process. Like I was sitting in I've got a client who lives not. I was sitting with her this morning in her house, and she's like 2 months ago, she could hardly get out of her chair without a walker.
Right.
She's been diagnosed with MS. And what she told me this morning when I went there, and I was nearly in tears, and she's watching this now, so here you are. She actually walked into her kitchen with the aid of a walker this week for the first time in a long, long time.
Yeah.
And she's done that because the work that we've done on our mindset and our beliefs has given her that belief that I'm not going to be what the doctors told me I am.
And this is
I'm
what
going to be me.
this is, you know, I think it was Henry Ford, wasn't it, that said, if you believe you can, you're right, and if you believe you can't, you're right. I think it might have been the other way around, but that the belief systems that we hold are how we create our world.
Indeed.
That's
And I look at the beliefs I had for, like I said, I'm 60 years old. Until I was like 59, is like, my belief was I had to push myself to prove myself worthy to do what I'm doing. And now it's just it's an organic process. Every day I'm in a flow. Some days the flow is fast, some days it's slow, some days it's like it's hit a brick wall and can't go anywhere. And other days I go, oh my God, I've got to do this. And sometimes my one side of my brain goes, what are you doing? You need to be busy. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. And the other side goes, no, you don't. So some days there's a dance. It's like, and my old boss, Tony Robbins, would say, yeah, what you want most and what you fear most are the extremes, and everything in the middle is a dance. And you've got to decide, and a lot of people will resonate in this, you've got what you want, but fear stops you from doing something. Somewhere in the middle is a dance. Some days you'll be like Freddie Stair. Freddie Stair is very old dancer.
That's just showing your age.
You watch TV, Dancing on Ice or Dancing with the Stars, like you watch these people and they're so elegant. That's what you do in life sometimes. Some days that you're that elegant dancer, and someday you're the celebrity who keeps falling over. And that's okay.
And it's having all of that in your scope to be with what is. I think Byron Katie is the master of loving what is. It's when we fight against what is that we have those problems. And it's interesting talking to you, because the story you're telling, obviously the details vary from person to person, but it's a story I hear from my clients, men in their corporate business. They've sacrificed so much for their families, for that climb up the career ladder. And there's a tension inside them. There's a pull that says that doesn't give them the significance in life. It doesn't give them true meaning and purpose. And they're just on this trajectory that they don't know how to get off, because they've fallen into that money trap of, I've got a big house and a big mortgage and a car in the drive and holidays and all of those things that everyone looks at and goes, wow, he's got it made. He's done a great job. And they reach it's often around their mid-40s, early 50s, where they're going, how am I going to sustain this? This isn't what I want. And so what you've just described is really quite prevalent, I think, in the world.
It is. And I spent 35 years in the corporate world, and would I go back there now? Hell no.
You're very clear.
What I do is I work with leaders in business or entrepreneurs, and the thing is, it's as humans, we have this. We spend so much of our time, we worry about what other people will think about us. And I remember it's like being in the boardroom, and every Monday afternoon we would have the weekly board get together. We'd look at the sales of last week, and the salespeople from the 8 regions would kick my ass every week because of this operations failure or that operations failure. And I would spend 2 or 3 hours defending myself.
Right.
And I remember going into the meetings, and I would go, oh my God, what are they going to say? And I would be getting anxious about, okay, I know this went wrong this week, and 97% of the stuff went right. We delivered stuff to the right time, but they were always focusing on the 3% that went wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in life. It's like we as humans, we always look for what's going wrong. And even as individuals, it's like we spend more time focusing on what's wrong and what's good.
Yeah. And even our education system does the same. You know, you get 98%, and then you're asked what happened. What happened to the 2%?
And yeah, and it's almost like so many people want. It's that desire to prove that you're good enough, and for some people that means they have to be a perfectionist.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier before we went live. You were telling me about a bit of a shift in you recently around mental health and supporting people with their mental health, and we talked a little bit about how difficult it is for men in particular to address it and get the right support and help that they need.
And if I take myself back to we just finished the corporate thing, I remember being in the boardroom, and I got to the point with that, can't do this anymore.
Yeah, because you mentioned the word anxiety.
I just lived in this permanent state of anxiety and stress. And it was like I was living in a fear. It was like I was waiting for the next every time we picked up something because we thought we had finished with it and fixed it. It's like you go on the beach, you pick up a stone, and the little crabs run out underneath it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. And I remember being in the board, and I remember the day I got the sack, I was actually relieved. It was like, oh my God, it's just like somebody took this concrete weight from my head and threw it into the sea. And then I jumped into the stress of, okay, what the hell do I do now? And 4.5 years later, here I am doing what I do, right?
And I think there's a lot of people that they're in that position, but they can't imagine. And like, so you got the sack, so it kind of happened for you. For some people, they get sick. For some, sometimes, the business folds or something like that. And it's, when it happens for you, as you say, it's like that sense of relief. And what you and I do as coaches is we help people take that weight off themselves and have that courage to step into, I'm not doing this anymore. And that transformation from the space they're in to a complete new.
And when you get to that space, there's generally two directions you can go. It's like you can give into it, or you can do what takes great courage, and you think, no, I'm not. It's like some people will sit and think, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. And they'll just become introverted or they'll implode on themselves. And if you look at where we are now, it's like historically men are not great at talking about the feelings. Men are told by society, you've got to be the alpha man. You've got to be the breadwinner. You've got to be the strong man. And I know I was talking to a man the other day, and it's like, and he sits in a mental health group every Monday, and there's about 12 men, and they all and it's great because the 12 men get together and they actually talk about stuff. But what they do is they talk about the same stuff every week. And typically, like John over here will talk about the pain he's been through. He lost his job. His wife got cancer. And sometimes it's tragic, like his son committed suicide. And life happens for people. And it's like, and you can say, well, if life happens to me, my belief is life happens for you. It's like everything that happens in your life will bring you something. Yeah. And it will either bring you a lesson or a blessing. And I've had lots of lessons in my life. I've also had lots of blessings. Sometimes the lesson is the blessing. Now, losing somebody in your family to suicide is tragic. But it's what you do with that afterwards. It's like, how you respond. It's like, you've got you're still alive. And I've heard so many stories about people whose infant died of cot death, and they'd raise a charity, and they raise thousands of pounds, and they raise awareness, and sometimes sometimes out of that sadness comes, it helps so many other people.
Yeah, some great
But
things about that tragedy.
I know what the dark places are like. I've been there. 10 years ago, I was very close. I was practically becoming an alcoholic. Drink was my biggest friend. I had a serious virus, and I thought, I'm done with this. And there was a bridge near my apartment, and I thought I could just jump off there and forget about all this all. And there was twice I stood on the bridge.
You came that close.
I came that close, and it was only the faces of my two daughters, and I'd already put them through enough. I thought, I'm not doing this.
Mm.
And that was the beginning of my journey, which ultimately led me to here. And I know, and we're taking a little while to get to the mental health thing, but so I've been there, I've experienced it.
Yeah.
When I was staggering home from my favorite Irish bar some Friday nights, I'm thinking, I'd wake up in the morning with a thick head and I go, what am I doing this for? It's like, and I was going through all sorts of things.
And I really applaud you for talking about this, because hearing someone else's story and seeing that they've turned it around is so important, especially, for everybody, but in my world is coaching men. It's so important for men to know they're not alone and they're not isolated. And to hear it from, a big Scottish fella like yourself, to hear that is really powerful.
Coming back to, so what I want to do and it's the same with, 18 months ago, as I said to you earlier, I had this thing where I met a homeless lady in Glasgow. She was 80 years old, and I thought, this can't happen. So I want to do something about homeless and all. And then last week, as I told you, I had this moment where it just came to me, you got to do something about mental health. And the thing is, homelessness and mental health, they're very strongly linked. People generally end up homeless because there's issues with their mental health, because they haven't got the mental capability to cope with whatever's put them in the situation. And I really applaud what the charities do in providing shelter for people and giving them some education and for giving a space where men can talk. But what I've learned in the coaching that I do, and I've also done NLP and hypnotherapy, and it's about using these tools of coaching and hypnotherapy and NLP. It's like you can spend hours and hours and hours talking about it's like people go to therapy. Some people go, and you laugh about it, because you can look at the movies like Friends and things like that, and people would go, oh, I've been going to my therapist for 7 years.
Yeah.
And they go to therapy for 7 years, and every week they talk about the same stuff.
Mm.
And all that does is compound the memories, the emotions, and everything inside your body. The work that I do and many other people like me do is we take the story of your life, we give it a new meaning, and we give you the tools and the strategies and the life coping, life thriving skills that allow you to have a better life if that's what you really want.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know where I would have been if I hadn't watched that movie that night in 26 or 7 years ago. It's like,
yeah,
I've gone to my next executive job and probably burned out, or
back down the Irish bar.
Back to the Irish bar.
Yeah.
And it's like
what you were saying about, so there's a fine line between providing a space for people to talk and not feel isolated and alone with their mental space, and there's also a point where that has to transform from just talking into some sort of action program, guidance. My coach, JP Morgan, he talks about abracadabra in Aramaic means I create with my words. So he has a very strong belief, and which I share, that the words that you speak out into the world become creations. And I think sometimes when you get support groups that don't move people into the next phase of getting it off their chest and then giving them something to actually, some tools and something to actually do to change their world, they end up just creating more of the same, because it's all that's in their mind. It's all that's on the tip of their tongue. So what are you doing, David, when it comes to these tools?
And the thing is, it's just, and it's almost like, what was the word I was looking? Epiphany, right?
Mm.
And I remember I grew up in a religious home, and I remember, like, there's a story in the Bible about Saul's walking on the road to Damascus and he gets hit by a blinding light.
Mm.
And it was like that moment I decided I wasn't going to be in corporate anymore. And it's just like, and for the people watching, it's just like, it's fantastic that there's a space where people can now talk about their mental health. How more fantastic would it be if people had the opportunity to come out of that space of talking and doing something that made a difference to them, even if it was just something small. And it's not like making a change, it's like improving your mental health is done sometimes. And people think, well, it would take when people tell me this, like, I listen to clients and they go, that's not possible for me, because they see the gap between where they want to be and where they are now, and they're stuck in this thing. It's so big they can't. It's such a big gap that they can't do it. So it's about how do we get you to the first step?
Mm.
And when you get to the first step, you think, wow, okay, I've actually moved.
Mm.
And then from step 1 to step 2, and sometimes you can't see the end.
I published a book in 2017 called Emotion Lotion, Apply Daily. And it was centered around this idea of mental hygiene, because I was talking to a client and essentially saying it's like dental hygiene. If you don't clean your teeth every day and you don't look after your dental hygiene, you're going to end up with problems, and you're going to be, down the dentist spending lots of money and having major work done on your teeth. Whereas if you do a little bit every day, morning and evening, you do a little bit every day, you can look after your dental hygiene, and your mental hygiene is exactly the same. You said you've meditated every day for, how long did you say? 2,000 meditations or something.
I think it's about 1900
yeah.
1974 days or something like that.
Consistency of doing something every day towards your state of being, towards your mental health, that really makes that difference. And there's lots of things. It could be meditation, it could be journaling, it could be exercise, there could be many things, or a combination of. But it's important to have that commitment to yourself and to getting your...
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to 2 or 3 things. Number one is what you believe.
Yeah.
And we could talk for hours about beliefs.
We could.
It's about the emotional, what's your default emotional state? What emotions do you live in every day? And the third thing is the habits you have.
Yeah.
So,
and I think an emotional state can be a habit.
Yeah.
If
you have that habit of,
if you're grumpy every day, it becomes very easy to be grumpy. If you're grumpy today,
so let's talk about being grumpy. So, and I can't see it. If this was on Zoom, we'd have lots of people, right? But everybody's grumpy at some point, right? When you're grumpy, what are you focused on when you're grumpy? You're grumpy because somebody's annoyed you, or you stubbed your foot on the table, or you woke up and
you're actually in an argument with what is.
Yeah.
It's not going what is not what you want it to be.
And the thing is, So your focus is on what's not right, what you're not happy about. When you're not happy about something, your belief system kicks in and goes, well, and if it's something really, it's like, if you've got no money in the bank, oh, I'm never going to be rich. I'm never going to work again. And the more you say that, the more that will happen.
Yeah.
And then that feeds its way into the third one, which is the language. And you start telling yourself. So from that grumpy mood, the focus, the belief, the language, and it just goes round in a little hamster wheel until you break one of those things, you change it.
Yeah. So you could be offering a very simple strategy to mental health to kind of undo that downward spiral that takes place.
And it's like, if you want to, it's like, I'm going to share something a bit personal. So like December, I got COVID, and the doctors told me I was 48 hours from not being here. And in those 48 hours, I was on a dance. My oxygen level dropped. They were going to put me on a ventilator, then they didn't. And I've come out of that with a complete, I feel like I've been born again, right? It's like, but I'm 60 years old. But it's about, okay, so what emotions do I want to live in every day? What are the habits that I need to put in place? And it's like, in some ways, I'm learning to be me.
Yeah.
I'm learning to be, like, who do I want to be? How do I want to be? Who do I want to be with? What difference what do I want to do? And I want to help other people. And it's a bit like, and I've been sharing a lot with my clients recently, it's like, what are the habits that you need to put in place? And it's like if you're in a place where you're struggling with mental health, it's like you've got to learn to become you again. And you've got to discover you. So those beliefs that you have, it's like you've got to, they're the things that are holding you back generally. And they're probably not even your beliefs. Like I said, we could talk about that for a long time. And then there's that, it's like you have to learn to walk again. You have to learn, it's like, and I use the metaphor of you learn to swim or you learn to ride a bike. So when you're at your lowest place, it's like you've got to learn to walk again. You've got to learn to swim. Choose whichever metaphor fits you. You've got to learn to become you.
To be yourself.
And that takes like the discipline of meditation is the only thing I ever did in my life consistently. It's like when I was younger, I didn't brush my teeth. Some days I didn't brush my teeth. I now have bad teeth as a result.
Yeah.
And I have that habit where they get cleaned every day. But it's never too late. Yeah. So it's like if you're at your lowest point, it's like, and it's just that little shift. It's like, and you don't need to. There's maybe 100 things that you could do to feel better. Just pick one and do it every day.
Yeah.
So if that one is you set your alarm clock for 6:30 in the morning, and you get up and you look in the mirror and you go, right, today I'm going to have a good day. Or you get up, you put your clothes on and you go for a run, or you go for a walk, or you pick up a book. Or you say, today I'm not going to watch the news.
Yes.
Today I'm going to listen to something that will make me feel good. Today I'm going to put on my favorite bit of music and I'm going to dance like nobody's watching.
Yeah.
If you do any one of those things, you will find that it lifts your spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great book, Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read it, and he talks about habit stacking. And so for those, for some people, when their mental health is really raw, going out for a walk can be a challenge. And he says, don't even go for the big thing. Just put your trainers on. Just go for that. Make the steps to getting you out for a walk really small. And I know that I walk most mornings, and I know that if I get up and put my dressing gown on and go make coffee, I don't go for a walk. If I get up and put my jogging bottoms on and my t-shirt, I do. And it's just making life a little bit easier for myself, putting myself in the one, because once I'm dressed for the walk, I'm going.
And I love what you said, and I said it earlier, it's about what's the first step. The first step might be for you when you get out of bed in the morning is have your running shoes at the bottom of the bed, so that they're there, and go, oh yeah, my running shoes are here. And then you've got a choice. You can walk past them and go and have a cigarette and a cup of coffee, or you can put your running shoes on and go for a run.
Yeah. Yeah, so
you have choices every day. And some people say, well, I don't have a choice anymore. You always have a choice.
Yes.
You always have a choice.
And just that belief is empowering, isn't it? To know you always have a choice. And you get to choose who you're going to be. Am I going to be a person that gets up and goes for a walk today, or am I going to be a person that chooses not to do that?
I mean, I think I would say to the people watching, so if you're struggling with this, or even if you just need something to give yourself a boost every day, it's like, okay, who do I want to be today? I want to be David. So what are the characteristics of David, the real David? The real David wants to be grounded and centered and happy every day. So what does David need to do to be happy, grounded and centered? Well, to be grounded and centered, I'll meditate. To be happy, I'll listen to my favorite piece of music, or I will look out the window of my office here and I'll look at the hills that I'm surrounded by. And it doesn't matter whether the wind's blowing or the snow's dawning and it's raining. I look out the window and I go, I'm blessed to live here. I'm happy to be here. Or I walk downstairs and I go into the living room and I see a picture of my children or my granddaughter, and I smile. And when I smile, I'm happy. It doesn't need to be anything. It's not rocket science. When you get up in the morning, you want to be happy, do something that makes you happy.
That's great advice. Do something that makes you happy. Yeah. So what's your morning routine? How do you start your day?
Well, I'm experimenting them on. For the last 2 weeks, I've not set an alarm clock. I had a bad habit of staying up too late. And I go to bed between 10 and 10:30, and it's wonderful. And where I live in Scotland, and we've got great light, and the clocks have changed. So my body wakes up between 6 and 6:30 without an alarm clock. So the first thing I do is I go downstairs, I have a drink of water, and more often than not, I'll make a glass of celery juice. The taste is disgusting, but I'm told it's good for me. It's a habit I'll get into. I probably do it 5 days out of 7. Then the next thing I do is I come into my office and I sit with my back to the window, and I've got a little meditation space. And sometimes I'll sit in silence. Sometimes I'll listen to something. Sometimes I'll let people guide me. Sometimes I'll listen to music. And that varies from between 10 minutes to half an hour. Then after that, probably somewhere, and again, it comes down to discipline. It's about building muscle. I'm now exercising. I've got a little room next door with a trampoline on it, or a rebounder, if that's what you call it. And I do a little bit of exercise for half an hour. Then I'll have my first cup of coffee of the day. I'll have a shower, and I'll spend time. Okay, what am I going to be doing today? How many clients will I see? And what do I need to do in terms of admin for my business, or Who do I want to reach out to? And then my day, I'm active between 9 and 1, and then from 3 to 7. And up until this week, I had a Facebook group where I did activity in the evenings as well. I'm now not doing that because I'm going to put in my attention towards the mental health projects. And that's typically what I do 5 days a week.
And it's interesting because you started that with, I used to have a bad habit of going to bed too late. And I think so many people struggle when you ask them to do, say, how are you setting up your morning? They go, oh, I can't possibly do it. I just get up and I get in the shower, and then before I know it, I'm on the train. Or, people that are still in that corporate space find making space in the morning to set their day up quite difficult. And that's largely because they haven't actually got into bed the night before at a time that allows them to get the rest they need.
Yeah, most people, the first thing they do in the morning is pick up their phone, even before they get out of bed.
Yes.
And I remember it when I was in corporate land. But even before I got out of bed and put my feet on the floor, I would have read 10 emails, and I'd be looking at the latest disasters of the day. Or sometimes you can be lying in bed, you look at Facebook, and you're comparing yourself to everybody else's life. So you've basically done in your day before you get out of bed.
Yeah.
What I do, and what lots of other people I know do, is like, if you create space for yourself, what do you need for yourself to set yourself up for the day? What do you need to do to set yourself up for a good night's sleep? Now, I would go to bed at 11 o'clock and I would set the alarm for 6:30. Now I just take another hour's sleep. And I wake up in the morning and my energy is much better.
Yeah.
And I don't have that thing where I want to throw my phone out the window because there's an alarm gone off. So it's like, ask yourself, what can I do in my routine to help me have a better sleep? Well, a great thing is not look at the TV an hour before you go to sleep, or not pick up your phone. Or maybe you just want to listen to some music or read a book. Or maybe you want to tell yourself who you want to be tomorrow as you go to sleep. Tomorrow I'm going to be productive. Tomorrow I'm going to be a badass. Tomorrow I'm going to run for 3 miles. Whatever it is, it's like, tomorrow I'm just going to be more loving. I'm going to be more present. I'm going to be a great mom or a great dad. And if you say to yourself these things, and then you just close your eyes and go to sleep, that will process in your mind. In the morning, you wake up and you probably remember, oh yeah, I'm going to do that thing today. And your feet will hit the ground and you're going to go, I'm gone.
Yeah, and I feel good.
And if you don't pick up your phone and look at Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is you watch, or read your emails, if you don't pick up your phone for 2 hours, I guarantee your day is going to be so much better than it would have been if the first thing you do is look at your phone.
And it's you will be so much better. You will feel so much better. And by being and feeling better, your day will respond in that way. Laurie's just asking a question. I'm just going to show it here.
So,
how can I protect my own well-being?
Yeah, so this is, and I see this quite a lot, Laurie. There's only so much you can do. It's like my own daughter suffers from mental health. She's been diagnosed with ADHD and bipolar. And I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but when she lives in London, and she's been on the at-risk register a few times in her life. Now, as her dad, I can beat myself up and feel guilty about why she's in this situation. I can't actually do anything about it. My daughter is in control of, and sometimes she's not in control of her own emotions or the decisions that she makes, because she's in such a place that she can't cope. But as a parent, as I can't do anything about that. I just have to trust that she believes in God. She's a Christian. It's like God, the creator, whoever it is you believe in, is like the path that my daughter is on in her life is her path. As her father, I can guide her and support her, but ultimately what happens in her life, I've got no control over. So for you, Laurie, it's like my encouragement to you is all you can do is be present sometimes. And that's because it's our natural instinct to want to take over and do things for people. You want to make them happy. You want to make them better. But the reality is, and I know this from my own personal experience, I can't do that. The only person that can do that, in my case, is my daughter. I can't stop her having ADHD or having bipolar. I can't control what she does every day. You can't control what your family member does. And yes, it drains your energy. So my encouragement for you is find some way of recharging your batteries. It's like because what will happen is you will do everything you can to support them, to help them. And the best help you can do is to be present with them and listen, be a shoulder, but you can't change the emotional state they're in. But maybe by you being present and them feeling the love you have, that might be the one thing that gets them through the day.
Mm.
And what can you do for yourself? It's like find a way to look after your own energy. If you're a spiritual woman, find a way of protecting your own energy. It's about create boundaries for yourself. It's like as a coach, it's like I did this. I went my whole life proving, giving. I went through a period of my life where I gave more to somebody to prove my worth, to get love or whatever it was. And in the end, I nearly burned out. When I was in Amsterdam and drinking too much, nearly becoming an alcoholic, I was doing that to be the life in some other parties so that I could feel worthy enough. You're worthy enough as you are. The support you give your family is enough. You can't change somebody else's emotions, their thoughts and their actions. You can support them, you can be there for them, but ultimately you can't control that. And whatever happens, as I said earlier, whatever happens in life is a lesson or a blessing. And maybe sometimes it's both. But you can't control what somebody else feels or does or says.
That's really, really good advice, David. And
The desire is that in some way that will help you.
Yeah. And just to echo that, protecting your own well-being is the most important way for you to look after that other person. So some of the things that David was saying about earlier in the mornings, just setting yourself up for that time, setting yourself up for success so you're okay, keeping your strength and your state of being strong is the best way you can serve and help that other person. Really great advice, David, and thank you for sharing your personal experience. I'm sure that's really helped Laurie. So I'm very aware of time. I do try and stick to the hour, and we are just coming to the top of the hour. Thank you so much for your shares today. It's been really inspiring to talk to you, and I know you do great things in the world, and you will continue to do great things in the world. If there was one thing that you would say to anybody watching about moving themselves from that space of I can't do this anymore, I've got to do something different, what would you advise? What would that be? What would your message be?
Get support.
Yeah.
Get support. and it's not a plug for me or Fiona. There's a great saying.
Yeah.
You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you're surrounding yourself with if the 5 people in your life are making your life a misery, then, and it might be your family, and you don't want to change your family, but what you can do is get somebody that can support you, a counselor, a therapist, a coach. There's plenty of support on social media. There's plenty of coaches and therapists out there that have groups where you can come in and get the kind of support that you need. So you're not in this on your own. Laurie shared something there. There's thousands of people like that in the UK. There's millions of people around the world that are in the same place. So my encouragement for anybody is, like, you're not alone, and there are people out there that can support you.
Thank you, David. You have been an absolute star. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And if you're catching this on replay, feel free to ask questions. We can always jump in and try and answer them at a later time. So thank you again. And in 2 weeks' time, I will be in conversation with Rohit Nanda. And I'll be telling you a little bit more about him in social media in the coming weeks. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
See ya.